All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Oh, everybody, thank you. The waiting is the hardest part, isn't it? I agree. And it is a special land. We have an MIT-trained virologist joining us in the second hour. Gary Dietrich, the political ninja, in the first hour. It is really something special. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. And Tony is here.
Thanks, Tony.
Tony, actually, you probably had an incredibly busy weekend. Don't you do all the Angels games? And is that right?
When it fits in my shift kind of thing, because I work set blocks, so I didn't see it. I missed all the games, but I heard they did well.
Well, I appreciate always you working us into your shift. And I want to acknowledge that I had a lot of great interactions with viewers and listeners who got in touch with the show over the weekend. You can always reach us anytime, day or night. Our email address is themarkthompsonshow@gmail.com. I'll try to sort the important from the unimportant as we continue today. I say that because I think the Epstein thing is, once you acknowledge the profound awfulness of everything that Jeffrey Epstein is, it is at once unimportant in terms of the relative importance it has to everything else going on in America, ICE agents and the modern day Stasi, brown shirt, whatever you want to characterize this crew of unmarked feds who come through cities and remove people who are both here in the country lawfully and also, while undocumented, still trying to operate within the law, headed to immigration hearings, etc. When you put it up against some of that which is going on, the chaotic tariff policy, these things, I'd suggest the building of these concentration camps, etc. There's a lot going on. And I guess what I'm trying to say is when you put Epstein up against those things, it really pales, you could argue, in comparison. Mm-hmm. But the reason it doesn't quite take complete back burner status, and again, I'm leaving aside it's salacious, it's clickbaity, it's all of these things, of course, but its political relevance is immense, because the president cares desperately about swimming away from it. And the more he tries to swim away from it, the more he is swept under by it. And so in this sense, it is enormously relevant. And so we will get to the latest Epstein developments and maybe the bigger plan that is at least being talked about by Republican and right-wing power brokers, the 3D chess of removing Donald Trump, allowing Donald Trump to fall, and setting up for Act Two, which wouldn't involve Donald Trump. So I will get to that as we continue, and I'll bring it up to Dietrich, who, usually can tell me, come on, Mark, it's this is a common thing. And,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, the press talks about stuff. It's not so uncommon, etc. Shout out to John Lovitz, whose birthday it is today, apparently. I'm just seeing that. Right. Yeah, we have the birthdays are usually something, if you join the chat in our show before we go on the air. Who does the birthdays every day? There's somebody who does the birthdays before we go on the air. Anybody? Kim, do you ever notice it, or?
Yeah, I see it every day, and I forget who posts it. I'm scrolling back to look.
Yeah. But anyway, he noted John Lovitz today. So nice. Cheers to John. Yeah.
I have a big announcement moments ago. My daughter passed the test at the DMV to get her California driver's permit, not the license, just the permit, which means now I have to take my life in my hands and get in the car with her.
Well, what I would say is, at first, it's very, very exciting, of course. Secondly, it's a freedom for her, which is nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're right, anxiety for you, but maybe just a heartbeat away from her becoming an Uber and Lyft driver. And
there you go.
Beginning to, yeah. We have some Uber and Lyft drivers who have been a big part of this show through the years, and I'm sure they'd be all too happy to interact with Julia and show her the most efficient and cost-effective way to go. Yeah. Yeah, I know my head looks like it's floating, somebody says, because it's the dark. I don't know. I don't know what to do about that, Tony. I don't think there's anything I can. Yeah. No, what is it?
I blame you.
Isn't that what you need the backlight for, to separate you from the background?
Yeah, but
on TV.
Where is
no, you need the light, like the light from above shooting like
down
down on your back.
I'll get that going. Is it, and my shirt is dark.
It's not helping. That's the same.
You can't wear black, otherwise you look like you're just a head against the black. But that's all right. We'll just move forward because
I just don't know.
I mean, you could just do it in a gym like me.
I don't exactly. I just need to get another stylist in here to do the entire thing. All right.
Need to add one light in the corner shooting down.
Yeah. Okay. I've got to get a light in the corner shooting down. Put that on the list, please. It's important. I know, and we will get it done. All right. So
the only reason I'm here is because you were a friend.
All right. So
since we're redecorating the Mark Thompson Show studio,
yeah,
a lot of other YouTube hosts have neon signs behind them. Maybe we should think neon.
I have some in my arcade.
I don't know. We can
live, laugh, love, right? Something.
We can take
not that.
Live, laugh, yell.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah, I would say we could take a meeting on it. Maybe we'll put it up as a poll. But I'm not loving. I love neon.
Yeah,
I'm a Vegas.
Would you
guy.
like to apologize for what you've done?
I know. I can't. I'm gonna get the lamp.
You know that your name and lights behind you.
No, I just don't. I don't know if I love the neon in this instance, but anyway, we could take a meeting on it. I did want to tell you that the weirdest story of the end of the week is not political. Okay, if I can just start something that's not political. A neon sign that says processes, protocols, and standards.
There you go.
Processes and protocols and standards.
Yes,
perfect.
That's a great idea. We should get some kind of rolling sign. But anyway, live, laugh, love above a wine stand, says Roger. There you go. All right. That we're writing. I love it. We're writing. An older Mark Thompson Show episode was cited and replayed on Midas Touch earlier today. Says Ronald Simon.
I wonder which one it was.
Yeah, me too. Wow. I don't know. Classic Mark Thompson time waster, offers Daniel Martin. This does feel, I don't know if it is, but
it's a classic Mark Thompson time waster.
It feels adjacent to that. All right, let me just share something with you that a time zone clock. So that's sort of more my thing. I'm a clock guy, but I don't know.
Old school newsroom.
Yeah, I'm an old school newsroom guy. Yeah, that's right, to remind me of the fact that, that world is past. I did want to get into the Epstein story, how it's affecting Trump politically, and I will do a lot of that with Gary Dietrich. So don't worry if you're here for that. I will get to that. And as I say, the 3D chess of what might be in the works when Murdoch meets Vance, etc. I'll get to that story as well. The weirdest story, I think, maybe not the weirdest, because there's always, you can offer something weirder, but pretty weird.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Pretty weird was the story about the woman who is finally breaking her silence, Kim. The wife of the Long Island man who was killed in that freak MRI accident.
Oh, that's so weird.
She's breaking her silence, Kim. She had silence, and she's now breaking it. Apparently, he walked into an MRI room wearing what was termed a necklace initially. And the reason I say it was termed a necklace is because every accurate report that I have seen suggests that it was one of those big chains, like it's a necklace, I guess, technically, but it's a large grade metal, big, heavy chain, a 20-pound chain is what it was. Mm-hmm. And he uses it for weight training. So he wears it on his neck. I guess it builds strength in him generally. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing this thing, and he walks into the MRI scanner room, right?
So that's not just a necklace. That's a 20-pound piece of metal on your neck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So they say, don't, they tell you to take off all metal, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Anyway, he walks in.
Thinking the MRI is over, his wife is getting an MRI of her knee, and he thinks it's done, and he's going to help her off the table.
Yeah. And apparently the MRI machine, the magnet is so strong. They say it could yank a wheelchair across the room. It's that kind of intense magnetism. And Tony's showing it to you now. Like, that's what it looks like on the inside.
Giant spinning magnet. Yeah.
Yeah. And they tried, both the wife and technician tried to pull him out of the machine, but they said it was impossible. And these magnetic resonance imaging machines are so very powerful, and it all happened so very quickly that he was killed by it.
Yeah.
He was rushed to the hospital. His wife says he suffered several heart attacks.
Yeah.
And died. He went limp in my arm, she says, and this is still pulsating in my brain. They're continuing to investigate it, but it would seem to be those details that we've just related to you to be the pertinent details. I suspect there's no further investigation needed. And
what a weird way to go.
I tell you, that is pretty brutal. That is really pretty brutal. It's wild that he thought it was over, but I guess he did. And sadly, he is gone.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, now I am bound by my pledge to you to run out all of the madness that comes out of the White House, regardless of who's in it. I am bound to share with you the fact that over the weekend, and I guess when did this drop? The video of Obama being arrested?
Sometime overnight, I think, but it was posted sometime over the weekend by Trump on Truth Social.
So Trump on his social network, posted this video of Obama being thrown to the after this long. I mean, it is way long. This video needs an editor desperately. One Democrat after another saying no one's above the law, no one's above the law, no one's above the law. And the 86-second clip begins with all of that footage, and then it goes into this AI footage of Trump and Obama sitting in the Oval Office, and then Obama is detained by FBI agents and then dressed in a jumpsuit. We're showing it to you now.
Obviously, all AI,
Yeah. And then Trump smirks as his predecessor is taken away, is what is noted. So I have two thoughts on this. And there's a shot of Obama in the jail cell. First of all, AI is scary good, what they can do, although that was a hack job because, as Tony said, that probably took them like 90 seconds to do that. It was so not reflective of anything well done, too long, clunky. But once you get past that part, it's just astounding to me that something as juvenile as that is posted by the President of the United States. It's just amazing. I mean, how far we've fallen is an astounding fact. That trolling a past president or other political figures is something that the President of the United States does. He doesn't do it once in a while. He aggressively does it. This president is all performative. Donald Trump has policies, heinous, awful, aggressive, gruesome, grotesque policies when it comes to immigration, when it comes to the economy, the ham-fisted way that he is doing all these things. So at least that's really presidenting. These policies are awful, but it coexists with this adolescent flex he has, which is stuff like that, which is reposting some AI of Obama being thrown to the ground. And of course, he's got a thing for Obama because of that speech that Obama made when he was doing the correspondence dinner, and he nailed Trump repeatedly, right? And he was after Obama prior to that, you know, the birther thing, all of that.
It smacks of some type of racism. And when I saw that, like, oh, let's arrest the black president and throw him to the ground, all that, and treat him like a criminal, it did smack of racism. But you know what? I think really it's Trump who should be embarrassed by that. It's Trump who should be embarrassed by posting that. And I think everyone knows that. That's just silly.
Trump is the messiah of the adolescent bullies, says John Watson. I think that's a decent take. It just really does feel adolescent bullying. That's a really great take on it. So,
and we're reminded the person who's actually really been arrested and booked with a mugshot is Trump.
Yeah. Arrested for what? Posted by the convicted felon. Yeah, says Copper. I will say this, that Tulsi Gabbard has come out with this intelligence, I'll put it in quotes a little bit. I mean, she is DNI, Director of National Intelligence, and she is saying that Obama and others are guilty of treasonous conspiracy because they amplified the amount of Russian interference in the election that Trump won against Hillary Clinton. Okay, so we're still doing that dance. So she's saying that Obama and senior officials in the Obama administration had, quote, laid the groundwork for a years-long coup and laid that groundwork against Trump after his victory over Hillary Clinton by, quote, manufacturing intelligence to suggest that Russia had tried to influence the election. That included using a dossier prepared by British intelligence agent Christopher Steele that they knew to be unreliable, Gabbard claims. So she is on Team Trump, and she is now, again, concocting her own dossier of materials to support how lawless the Democrats under Obama were. Their goal was to subvert the will of the American people and enact what essentially was a years-long coup with the objective of trying to usurp the president from fulfilling the mandate bestowed upon him by the American people. She goes on, no matter how powerful, every person involved in this conspiracy must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law to ensure nothing like this ever happens again. So she, you know, it's weird. Tulsi Gabbard is a wild story, and I won't get into it heavily here, but she was a Democratic member of Congress, and she flipped and has become a true believer, it would seem, in a lot of the things that animate MAGA world. And she has certainly fallen in line and embraced her power as she supports this president. I mean, let's just look at what she said about Iran. Iran's not close to a nuclear weapon, is what she said originally. You know, our intelligence reflects that. But then she got the memo from the White House saying, we're going to get involved in this. And all of a sudden, oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't read the last page. Apparently, earlier, Iran wasn't close to a nuclear weapon. But I'm just seeing that Iran could be hours away from getting a nuclear weapon. Better bomb them. That was Tulsi's reversal. So I do want to get into something else that's going on, but that happened over the weekend and late Friday, and I just wanted to give you a sense of that. And the thing I wanted to really at least touch on is something that I'm hearing more of a buzz about and beginning to see in published reports. And then something happened over the weekend that was quite important. So here is
the Mark Thompson Show.
The secret visit to media mogul Rupert Murdoch's ranch from JD Vance. JD Vance visits Rupert Murdoch's ranch. No press, no notes, all conspiracy to set up the next act. We'll see. Apparently, this happened, and it was not, while the news broke this weekend, it happened, the actual meeting, about a month ago. Isn't that right, Kim?
Yeah, June 11th. Air Force Two lands in Butte, Montana at about 2:30 p.m. June 11th and doesn't leave until after nightfall. And according to the Associated Press, JD Vance went to Rupert Murdoch's giant Montana ranch a little more than an hour away from the airport and had a meeting with Rupert Murdoch, his son Lachlan, and several other executives of Fox News. We don't know what they talked about. And then after the meeting, Mr. Vance and his wife went on a little hike and then left.
Well, it's a beautiful place the Murdochs have up there. Just a little something they picked up, I think, on a weekend rolling through that beautiful country. It's a $280 million estate. And there's a lot to be said about the relationship between Murdoch and the Republican Party. Traditionally, Murdoch has animated the Republican Party agenda. He's done it through the Wall Street Journal. He's done it through Fox News Channel. He's done it through all his Fox stations. Now, of course, Rupert Murdoch embattled, right? Wall Street Journal went forward with a Jeffrey Epstein piece, the piece that demonstrated on multiple bits of reporting something which we on one level knew, which is the relationship between Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and the close relationship. Also that it was informed by a skeezy, sort of sleazy obsession with girls, I'm going to say. I mean, they were sub 18. And even their beauty pageants that they put together, they did these sort of modeling agency related, are you good enough with your look to make it into modeling? They did these kinds of mini pageants and castings, and that we know about. But the Wall Street Journal piece, it showcased a birthday card that had this weird exchange. We touched on it last week. Donald Trump's signature on this graffitiized thing. But the answer is, on all of this stuff, it may or may not move the meter, but it moved Trump's meter. That is to say, politically, it may or may not be significant. I'd suggest the drip, drip, drip of this is significant, but it moved Trump's meter significantly enough, this one drop from the Wall Street Journal, it was Thursday, to sue them. So now he's suing them for an absurd, he always picks up
$10 billion. $10 billion. Yeah.
It's like, Dr. Evil, I'm going to sue you for it. So in this case, it's billions of dollars. You have to show damages in a defamation suit, as you're aware. Trump doesn't want a lawsuit with the Wall Street. In other words, he doesn't want it actually adjudicated. This is a way to flex and to push back. I mean, obviously, if there was actually an adjudication of this, there'd be depositions prior to any trial. Depositions could include Trump being deposed, and he'd have to be deposed. There'd be no, well, I'm president, you can't, I'll talk to you after the presidency's over. No, 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 no. Bill Clinton was deposed. He was president, and that whole thing, and that was also, sex related. And likewise, Trump would be deposed. This isn't going to happen, but I'm just saying these are the things that would happen if Trump really presses this case. And then you'd have, under discovery, you'd have all of these revelations and all of these details about Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump and all the places in which Donald Trump's name shows up alongside Jeffrey Epstein. You'd have all of the travel manifests. All of these things would have to be admissible. Otherwise, you can't prosecute this case, adjudicate this case, run this case out in any kind of responsible way. This is the way the law works. Regardless of how you think you're going to game it out, Mr. President, you will have to be exposed in all these ways that you don't want to be exposed. You don't want to sit there for a deposition, and you certainly don't want all of this information being revealed. Now, we'll talk more about this with Gary Dietrich, that is to say, the overall weight of this Epstein thing. I think it's only significant because of its political relevance, because of the weight that it is producing on Trump's presidency. And of course, the real cost, the very real cost of the Epstein victims. There were north of 1,000 boys and girls. It was a true human trafficking operation. And it's so grotesque that the idea that you could be alongside someone like that for so long and be cool with it. There's sort of an implied consent that's pretty brutal. But back to JD Vance. JD Vance, Murdoch, that relationship is important. And it becomes even more important now because of the embattled nature of the Trump-Murdoch back and forth.
Can I just tell you that the only thing on the president's schedule today, when I looked at what the president is doing today, lunch with JD Vance. So that'll be an interesting meeting.
Yeah. Read about your meeting with the Murdochs last month. The question becomes, could there be an act two that the GOP, sick of Trump, okay, here's how the conspiracy works. Sick of Trump, he's become so radioactive with his posts, with his reckless policy, and I think that, by the way, the latter, the reckless policy, particularly economically, is what concerns the GOP. How they're torching their own districts while they fall in line on his parade when it comes to economic policy. They passed his bill, now the clawback. These things, again, this is how the conspiracy works. At some point, they begin to wreak havoc. The American economy begins to suffer. Those GOP districts begin to really be threatened to the point that maybe the Democrats win big. And so Trump loses power. Now, this is the part of the conspiracy I don't quite get. I don't understand. Are you talking about removing Trump? How would you remove him? I don't quite understand how that would happen. Would you release the Epstein? Would the Epstein files be released to the point that those details, so salacious, would somehow affect him? I don't think they would. I don't think there is any detail in the Epstein file necessarily that would affect Trump. Now, obviously, Trump disagrees with me. He doesn't want anything out there. But I'm just saying that would end his presidency? No. But on some level, you can't tell me that Murdoch and those people on the far right haven't gotten what they need out of Trump already, and perhaps are sitting down over coffee with JD Vance and looking at Act Two. That's the way the conspiracy goes, and it's a fact that Vance was there meeting with Murdoch. So in the shadow of this lawsuit, one wonders.
Could he have been there to convince Murdoch not to run the Wall Street Journal piece? Perhaps.
Could be.
We don't know.
Mark, what are the chances of Ghislaine Maxwell testifying before Congress? Yeah, she could, thank you, Tony. That's a great question. I'll ask Gary Dietrich that question. He seems maybe better qualified to answer it than I am. But that's the way that piece of the conspiracy goes. And the relationship between Murdoch and the relationship between other wealthy donors to Trump and agenda-driven donors who feel like Trump is getting into liability territory. And now that Trump is in that territory, it may be time to plan for the after-Trump days, and the sooner the better. That's the way it's thought about. So, we'll keep you posted.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, there's a lot going on. And when it comes to politics, this guy is just the best. He is the political analyst for iHeartRadio, also across the CBS television stations, our former colleague from KGO. How about it for the great Gary Dietrich, everyone? Hi, Gary.
Hello, Mark. And yes, here's one thing we can, I think at this juncture, we just passed the 6-month mark of the Trump presidency 2.0. I think we can rest assured, Mark, there will be no lack of content for you and I in the next 3.5
There is that.
And beyond, I might add, well beyond. 28 is going to bring its own circus-like atmosphere, and I think we're going to dip into some of that probably, I guess, today.
Now, let me ask you about this conspiracy theory that is hatched. So, obviously, there are a lot of conspiracy theories working. There's the Epstein conspiracy, all the rest. This conspiracy is more political and more about power. And it is Trump's outserved his usefulness to us on the right. We got what we want, tax breaks, etc. Now it's time to figure out a way to jettison Trump because he could affect so many of the markets in so many negative ways that we, the rich power base, no longer want him to have a hand in it. And as a result, we're planning for Act 2, and that's with JD Vance. Can you speak to that?
I can, Mark, and I think we can dispatch of this pretty quickly. Let me agree with you wholeheartedly. There's no way to remove Trump, okay? You can go down every possible scenario you want conspiracy-wise. Donald Trump, A, is not stepping aside. B, nobody in the Congress on the Republican side is going to even voice, let's support the word I, impeachment. Okay, there's just no mechanism realistically for this to happen. That's number one. Number two, is the GOP and certain elements of it tired of Donald Trump? Hey, they were tired of it before this last election, okay? But here's the reality. Driving in just now, stock market again, another all-time high. I mean, all the doom and gloom, just the facts don't bear out that Trump's actions to date have cratered the economy, right? You're going to hear commercials every other day from so-called financial people. Oh, you better get your gold and bury it in your doghouse because everything's going to hell in a handbasket. The economic numbers simply don't, at this juncture, Mark, bear it out. Now, I will say the last piece about JD Vance and 28 and all the rest of it, and we're ready to go ahead and anoint him. Look, let's look on the Democratic side. 28 campaign, it's already well underway. It is full scale. LA Times article over the weekend. Hey, Gavin, quit playing cute. You're running for president. Okay. And make no mistake, the same is happening on the Republican side. Everybody knows this nonsense that Donald Trump's going to run a third time. It's not going to happen. Okay. Nobody on the GOP thinks that's likely to happen or even realistic for it to happen. So what does that mean? That means that already, somewhat behind the scenes, the JD Vances, and you can make your own list, right? The Marco Rubios, just go down your list, maybe Ted Cruz, maybe a whole bunch of others, are already talking to people about 28. That is inevitable. It happens every time. Remember, we're going to have open primaries in both parties. What do I mean by that? There's no incumbent, okay? And so is there any advantage to the VP in terms of incumbency? History doesn't bear that out very well, with the most recent exception being George Bush after Ronald Reagan. But Al Gore found out the hard way. Kamala Harris found out the hard way. A bunch of people have found out the hard way. Being vice president guarantees you about nada.
Wow. I want to get to the Trump presidency now, away from the future, the JD Vance, as you say, who will be joined by Marco Rubio and others who you mentioned, and get to the presidency now. And I want to do it through a snapshot of approval ratings, and I will point to the approval ratings, and then I'll play something for you to sort of show how, in a way, the approval ratings don't matter. So I'm going to jump ahead because you're usually the guy telling me, Mark, that just doesn't matter, whatever it might be. So I think on this one, I really agree with you. Latest approval numbers, I believe this is related to, if you can you put it up there? There it is. Republicans now, these are polled Republicans on the Trump administration handling of the Epstein case. So this is about the Epstein case. 50% are satisfied, 49% are not so satisfied. Go ahead to the second one, if you would, please, Tony. His general approval rating is 42%. His disapproval rating is 58%. Again, this is a CBS News YouGov poll. I'll step out of this and just ask you if there's any significance to that. And then I want to get to the Epstein thing, because I think while it's being played as significant, and the Trump people certainly think it is oddly the most significant. I mean, there's every wag the dog kind of thing going on to distract. I mean, over the weekend, Trump talks about wanting to rename the Commanders the Redskins and all this. I mean, that's distraction 101. But that said, I want first to talk about the numbers just related to his job performance. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I can, Mark, and they're significant. Let me break them down even further, because there's other recent polls. Quinnipiac, CNN just came out with a new poll that I thought was particularly interesting because it broke down further some of the main sort of topic areas of concern, and areas that Trump ran on: the economy, immigration, et cetera, right? All those numbers are sinking for Trump. All right. He's dropped in some of them by 10%, even a little more, on his handling of XYZ issue. And typically the big ones, right? Like the economy, like immigration. Now Epstein's been added to the polling. But those numbers are significant. They're not significant to Trump. Why? Because Trump's not going to change his agenda. He's not going to change his trajectory. And he's not going to change his momentum in going after all those things. It's not going to change him per se. But the concern amongst the GOP, and quietly, is, well, what about us that have to run next year? Okay, what about me having to run on a Trump agenda in my purple district in less than 18 months now? We're talking 16, 15 months. All right, those midterms, and Trump's making clear, and we may not have time to get into this today. We may. But this whole gerrymander thing is particularly interesting on both the GOP side, by the way, and the Democratic side. So we ought to dive into that sometime, Mark, when we have time, because that is really, in my estimation, maybe going to be the big political story of this year. But as far as the numbers go, Mark, I do think they're significant, but not for Trump, for particularly members of the House and some U.S. Senate candidates who got to be concerned that they don't want to be riding a pony with three legs next fall.
Now, that's such a great call, too, that he's a lame duck president. He knows that he doesn't need to worry about re-election. He likes to be popular, I think, Gary, but he'll always claim he's popular. You could have those numbers sink into the 20s, and he'd claim, people have never been happier in America, and we're winning.
Well, he does care I will just say, Mark, he does care about the midterms. He knows that, and we've talked about this, he knows that if he loses the House next fall, he is kneecapped for the second half of his last term. And he knows that. The people in the White House are very cognizant of this. They have a different sort of evaluation of how vulnerable they are already. We'll get a long way between now and next November, but they're aware of it. Make no mistake about it.
The thing about the Epstein polling that I wanted you to at least comment on is that no one's happy, essentially. I'm just going to summarize it rather than play you the video. No one's happy with the, when I say no one, I mean overwhelmingly. Isn't the video about 2 minutes, Tony? I just don't want to bog us down too much with the video. I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood. It's 10. I don't know what that, holding up 10. It's 10 minutes?
Yeah. Yes, 10 minutes.
Well, no, it's not 10 minutes. The part I wanted to see was not 10 minutes. It's like 2 minutes. All right. Anyway, the point is that Americans are not happy with Epstein handling on the part of Trump. They're not happy with the way he's handled it in overwhelming poll after poll after poll. I mean, in overwhelming numbers. But the number of Republican voters who put Epstein on the high priority list of things they care about, almost none. So while Epstein is taking up all the media oxygen right now, and the president is obsessed with him and doing himself no favors that way, but he's tried the nothing to see here, let's move on, and that's not working either. But my point is simply that I don't know that at the end of it all, Americans will care about Epstein, or if that's more of a political story, relevant because of the political water that Trump may take on, but ultimately, it still is the economy and how people's lives are affected personally.
Yeah, Mark, I think you're spot on. I mean, look, I heard you in the lead in here before I joined you. There has to be, and there should be, deep anger, angst, frustration. You could go down a long list, okay, of terms that should describe the horror of the victims of Epstein. Okay. Now the question becomes, and the problem, so much of this, Mark, has to do with statutes of limitations, et cetera, in terms of prosecuting people. But to switch, so let's just have that as a base, because I don't ever, and I really commend you for this, Mark. I think it's very important because we jumped to Trump, we jumped to Clinton, we jumped to Gleason, Maxwell. Look, there were victims, and these people are obviously still suffering. We can't take our focus off of that. Now, to the politics of it. Is it going to damage Trump? Look, these kind of salacious stories about Trump have been out for a long time, right? Of all different stripes. We know that through both 3 different presidential elections now. Have they damaged him? Well, I don't know. He's sitting in the White House, okay? And so is it going to damage him going forward? It doesn't look like right now that's the case. But what's interesting to me, Mark, is kind of what you're pointing out. The MAGA base is really making a lot of noise about this. But are they going to withdraw their support for Trump? Almost assuredly not. And secondly, and to me more interesting even, is people would have found this incredible 6 months ago, a unified, how do I say this, perspective on any issue between the far left and the far right, between Democrats and Republicans, who in that poll you rightly point out, Mark, it's across the board. Independents, Democrats, and Republicans not happy with how this is being handled, not happy with Bondi and Trump's handling of it. When did you ever think you would see Democratic establishment and Republican establishment people saying, yeah, you know what, I agree with you about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's just such this drumbeat to release this information. And it's quickly, I think, realized that Trump's call to release the, quote, relevant information, or pertinent was actually the word he used, at least in the memo, from the grand jury testimony. I mean, that's like 1/1000th of what the file is. So I don't think people are that stupid. Certainly in that right-wing media sphere, they are echo chambering the hell out of this is BS. But the one thing that's happened is that as the Wall Street Journal story broke, it was odd to see MAGA world begin, and when I say MAGA world, particularly I'll say head of the parade might be Steve Bannon, begin to fall into the old line, which is circle the wagons. They're after our guy, Donald Trump. We got to protect him. This is mainstream media trying to screw our guy. This is a media jihad. Forget it. It was wild to see them pivot. You know, it was almost like, forget about the facts. We have to defend our guy.
Well, you know how this goes, Mark. I mean, when your enemy number one, which in the Trump base is the mainstream media and the Democratic Party writ large, when they start coming after your guy, well, listen, we can go after our guy. This is always happens in politics, right? But you can't go after our guy. And so think about this in a very odd way, Mark. This Wall Street Journal story over the next 6 months may end up, well, to your point, helping Trump with his base, helping him, because it's like, see, they're coming after me again. See, I told you, we can never get away from that. So this is going to have so many more twists and turns before it's over. And, is anything legally going to come out of this? I think I heard in your lead-in, is Trump going to get his $10 or $20 million or whatever or billion? Who knows? No, he's not going to get that out of Murdoch, but it helps sort of rebuild the wall of it's us against them, gang.
Exactly. So well said. Hey, I want to double back, as you suggested we should, to this gerrymandering question and redrawing of districts, okay? That's under the category of redrawing of districts, there is the gerrymandering. where the districts are drawn in such a way that one party has such a clear advantage, oftentimes the other party can never win the district. It's happening in Texas. Perhaps that's the highest profile example. And the redistricting of and redrawing of districts is something that is legally required. I think it was at every 10 years in response to the demography of an area that's reflected in the latest census. So bring us up to speed here, because it is fascinating. I was reading, maybe it was the Times piece over the weekend or whatever about it, and it's really intriguing.
Yeah, redistricting is one of the biggest Snorville things that most voters think about. Your district, I don't care. Who cares? I'll tell you why you care. None other than the master of California politics himself, the inimitable Willie Brown, former Speaker of the California Assembly, told me on air one time years ago, Gary, because I was really pressing him on this. Gary, drawing our own districts is the most important thing we do, okay? Because it determines the power structure, right? It's all about numbers. It's all about counting votes. You got it right, Mark. Typically, redistricting happens in the 02 years. The census happens every decade. And so the first election cycle after that, 2002, 2012, 2022, is when the new districts come out. Now, in some states, those get challenged because the maps get drawn different ways. And that is the key. All right. Some states still have it where it is a completely political exercise. What do I mean by that? The legislature draws the maps and the governor typically signs off on those. Now, if you control the legislature and the governorship, you're scot-free pretty much, right? Sometimes you get challenged in the court. Sometimes the court throws out a set of maps. But then in other states, like California did this, remember, Mark, through voter initiative, we now have a quote-unquote independent citizens commission that draws the district lines. Why is this so important? Because next year, Trump has made no bones about the fact he's pushing the tip of the spear in Texas. He said, 5 more Republican seats to bolster the cushion in the House. But here's the pushback, Mark, that's going to get exceptionally interesting. Led by, what a surprise, Gavin Newsom in California. We're not going to put up with this. He's looking into redrawing the California districts. The Democratic Party and Jeffries has met with his people and said, we're looking at New York, New Jersey, Illinois, Washington, maybe Minnesota, maybe Michigan, to do the same thing. This, Mark, could create absolute political chaos in the next 12 to 14 months, because you could easily see a scenario where people are just rushing to draw new lines in districts. People don't know where they're going to be running. Voters don't know which district they're going to be in. Donors don't know who to support. And here's the bottom line big problem for both parties. The way you do this is to move quote unquote safe district voters into other districts. What's the obvious flip side of that coin? You weaken other districts. So you might have X number of Republican districts, but if you draw some of those voters and stick them in other ones, hey, there's incumbents. This happens all the time. Say, wait a minute, don't take away my base voters. I might lose. And you know what? That might happen. You got to be, they always say, don't be too cute in politics because it could come back and bite you.
Well, that's really what they're talking about in Texas is just what you're saying. Inlays says this: last time Texas redrew districts, it backfired. So Texas better think long and hard, Inlays says. You make too many small, you're saying, but there is truly history to back that up. Others might say, and I wonder if you can, just because you're so good with California politics, hey, I thought California is a blue state. Like, what's the big deal? I would think this is just like redistricting around the edges, redrawing around the edges. Speak to the politics of California, because they've changed a lot through the years, and there's a lot of red in California always.
Well, there is, but as California politics always seems to manage to do you know out of the over 50 congressional seats, Mark, in California, deep blue state, how many are red? 9.
Okay.
Okay, 9 Republicans, okay? And the Democrats are still going after them. There's one in the Sacramento area on the top target list for the last couple cycles, and still may be this time. Newsom's nemesis, Kevin Kiley. People may know that name, they may not. But I tell you, I'm concerned about this, Mark. And some Democrats, to their credit, in their own party are saying the same thing. Look, we go down this path, we are going to absolutely implode voters' confidence in the electoral system. Okay, this is going to become the ultimate political insiders game that is going to disenfranchise millions of voters on both sides, and we don't have a chance I've taken the high road in terms of electoral integrity if we go down this road. The opposite side says, inside their own party, Democrats say, we don't have any choice. We got to do this. If we don't do this, Trump's going to have the House for the next 2 years afterwards. We have to take the political risk. We got to do it.
Old Hanson says something else related to sort of the optics of where Trump is. Trump eats an ice cream cone while Texas is a disaster area, Old says. He could at least do that in a private area outside the reach of photographers, but no. This shows us who he is. Texas, we just talked about the politics of Texas a little bit and sort of in the context of redistricting. Texas is dealing with a huge disaster. I mean, unprecedented. What are the politics of that?
Well, the politics of disasters are always a disaster, I tell people. There's no easier way for you across the board, take partisanship out of it, to look like an incompetent president or an incompetent elected official than to have something happen in your state or in your district or in your country that really people say this is unconscionable. Witness all the flack that Karen Bass, mayor of LA, and Gavin Newsom took over the fires in LA, right? And we could go down a long list of this. So I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, Mark, that I think FEMA may be, Trump's administration has to be very careful. That could be the Achilles heel that can really do some serious political damage. There was articles over the weekend. We're just entering into the heart of hurricane season. Is FEMA ready, or are they going to screw this whole thing up? This is, I think, something that is going to be watched very carefully. By the way, as far as ice cream goes, I don't know exactly what the listener was referring to, but yesterday was National Ice Cream Day. Whether Trump's cone had to do anything, and dairy farmers stuck one in his hand and did a photo op. I don't know.
That's my Gary. He'll put it in context somehow. Yeah.
Seriously, that happens all the time. You know, oh, it's National Donut Day, and there's somebody's chomping on a donut. Whatever.
No, they lit up Biden the same way. How can Biden stop for yogurt when there's this going on? Yeah. So
you got national everything going on in our country these days. Probably got a National Frito Day for all I know.
I don't understand. I never understood why donuts and ice cream need a national day. I mean, I feel as though let's have a national best looking guy and girl in high school day. I mean, like, those people don't need their own day. They're already the greatest looking people in high school. All right. They're already popular.
As far as that goes, I heard you were on the very short list for that when you were in high school, but best looking guy. But here's why that happens, by the way. The politics of these national days is this, and it's pretty simple and it's relatively obvious when you think about it. The industries that benefit from that are the ones that push it. Okay. So it's like the Dairy Council, you know, the Ice Cream Retailers Association, whatever. Remember, people have always joked about Hallmark's got more days than you could put. Well, because you can put out a new line of cards. Hey, happy ice cream day or whatever. You know, but this used to happen all the time in the state capital of California. Some memo would come across our legislative office like, come down at noon today and you're going to get free this or free that on behalf of somebody. And you're like, oh, free lunch? Okay, fine. Let's go down, right? That just happens all the time.
I'm really over my time with you. I'm going to get into a dance on what was going on and what is going on with immigration. And I don't want to really leave our conversation without at least touching on it again. There have been so many immigration missteps, in my view. I've showcased a bunch of them here on the show. I mean, these stories, they are moving, they are heartbreaking, of people being plucked out of whatever environment and put in all of these detention centers. I mean, the latest is an 82-year-old who I just seen, who has been in this country decades, but there are a lot of them. They're 82-year-olds, they're 56-year-olds, their children have served in the military, et cetera. You've heard it. This coexists with what is a huge media campaign to sort of suggest that the immigration policy of the administration is right on track. It's you see Kristi Noem in spots, and you see that there is a radio and television media buy that's significant to sort of communicate this. The last thing I would say, and then I want to get your thoughts, is this is all at a time that when reality is pointing to something different than what we're being told, which is, if you care about immigration, you care about deportations, Barack Obama deported many more people in his administration by this time, even the first 6 months, than Donald Trump has. So for all of the performance, the theater, the media buy, et cetera, and the heartbreak, I'd say, it's been a chaotic policy that hasn't really been very effective.
Well, they have taken in lots of people, but probably in terms of quote unquote policy effectiveness, as you know, Mark, the number that has actually gotten not as much attention recently, but is the most significant is the number of border crossings, right? And those have dropped precipitously in some sectors of the border to almost zero on a daily basis. Okay. So
but couldn't you have
what's that?
But couldn't you have stopped border crossings, Gary? Not to interrupt, but just to interrupt, not have at the same time pursued this crazy detention policy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, the Trump people say, well, one of the reasons the border crossings have dropped so much is because of the policy, right? But I think here's the important thing politically. Numbers coming out just recently in the last couple of days that now a majority of people are saying yes. And we talked about this, I think, Mark, a week or two ago, something. A majority of people say, yes, you should go after criminals, right? Known folks, that is, people generically use the term the bad guys, but not people that are in the country peacefully, whatever, contributing, you know, the whole story, have a job, and their quote unquote only crime is illegally crossing the border. That's the dividing line, I think, that's coming, that I've said for a while the Trump people have to be very careful about. Trump is no backing down on, hey, if you're across the border illegally, you're out. I don't care what your circumstances. But publicly, that's going to be a tough position to defend as the kind of stories you're talking about continue to pile up.
You can find Gary Dietrich on iHeartRadio. He is their political analyst, also across here on Mondays. Gary, so grateful always for your input. Appreciate you, pal. Thank you.
Good to be with you, Mark.
Yeah, Gary Dietrich, everybody. Good stuff. And Gary, of course, brought to us by Bill Campbell at Remax Gold. If you're relocating into or from Northern California, you need a highly respected real estate professional. Bill Campbell is that guy. He's at Remax Gold. You can call or text Bill Campbell. You can call or text Bill Campbell. 530-448-7474. 530-474. Bill Campbell. Remax Gold. Right on.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, I am excited that you're all here. We are a live show. 2 to 4 in the East, 11 to 1 in the West. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, we get kind of a late jump on thing. We give you 2 hours. We get you to 2 hours. Sometimes we start a couple of minutes after the top of the hour. We were a radio show that we have moved to the YouTube platform because our radio station completely went away. The entire station went away. It was wild. So I took him and took Tony, who was my colleague at KFI Radio in Los Angeles, and helped us power up here with Albert. And we've really developed a different platform here with slightly different demands. And I will tell you that it's much different than the radio show in some ways. We've tried to retain kind of the radio show vibe, which is kind of like a podcasty kind of vibe. So, yeah. That's what's going on.
Radio Plus.
Yeah, Radio Plus. Exactly.
The one thing radio people don't want, cameras.
Exactly. Yeah.
We used to have so much music on the radio show. That's the one difference.
I agree. Music was a real big part of our lives, and not anymore. So
station could pay the licensing fees.
That's right. The station, right? That's the thing. Radio stations have a deal, right? I wanted to have a conversation before we bring on our next guest about how to say his last name. He's such a distinguished professor, and I thought, and kind of I knew that we'd have a disagreement about how to say his last name. Now. I know what you're saying. Mark, you're someone who does painstaking research. You're someone who is always clear about how to say someone's name or always has great confidence about such things. Surely you, Mark, investigated how he says his name. And I want you to know I did. I did do that. In fact,
what?
I know. I went on his podcast.
Sure.
Where he identifies himself.
Microbe TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is how he says his name. Sadly, I did that last week when I knew he was going to be on the show. And in the intervening days, I have forgotten exactly how he says it. Yes.
Is it not Dr. Racaniello?
I don't think it's a hard L. I don't think it's a hard L. I think it's Racaniello. It's like a nya on the, I think, but I'm not sure.
Racaniello, because it's Niello.
Okay, his name is Vincent Racaniello. Yeah.
Racaniello.
But you said what did you say?
Racaniello.
I'm ready to go against whatever Kim said.
Always.
What?
We'll have to ask him now.
We're going to ask him.
Yeah.
All right. But I just wanted to tell you, but I'd like to can I get a clear, can we do the name thing first and then I'll bring him in for the breakout video? Is that the way to do it, Tony?
Sure, I'll cut this fluff out.
We'll cut this stuff out.
Yeah. This is just for the live stream, everybody.
Yeah. Okay, so it's hard L or not. You're going hard L.
No.
You did. You just went hard L.
I'm changing my mind.
Oh man, that is so lame. You know what, Kim? I don't want you. Okay, I'm disappointed.
Racaniello. That's my guess.
I think that's close. I think that's close. And I'm going to go Racaniello. Yeah, Racaniello. It's not like Latino, so it's Italian. All right, Doctor, we're going to bring you on in a separate moment. But welcome to the show, and now you can see already why you'll regret having been here. Please say your last name for me.
So here's the key, which you'll never forget. It rhymes with black and yellow.
Oh, that's
a rap song. Rack and yellow. You had the yellow right, but it's rack, not rock.
It's rack and yellow.
Rack and
yellow. I got it. Kim, were you right about that, or I think we were both right? I'll just keep.
You each had half. You each had half.
Yeah.
I think that we didn't get it quite right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think I was more right than Kim, though, right, Doctor?
Always.
All right. Let me now bring you on with the kind of flourish that one should when you're a distinguished professor like yourself.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This guy is a remarkable person whose body of work, I think, is so impressive that I'm compelled to share it with you, in part anyway. He is the Higgins Professor in the Department of Microbiology and Immunology at Columbia University's College of Physicians and Surgeons. He's co-author of a textbook on virology. It's called Principles of Virology. As a postdoctoral fellow in David Baltimore's laboratory at MIT, Racaniello used recombinant DNA, that's RNA, isn't it, to clone and sequence the genome of the small poliovirus that shows up in animals. It's an RNA animal virus. Using those tools that he had generated, he created the infectious clone of an animal RNA virus. And in this way, revolutionized modern virology. Some of that I didn't completely butcher, but does reflect the immense honor it is to have him here, all kidding aside. So excited to have Dr. Vincent Racaniello here. Hello, sir.
My pleasure to be here.
Wow. I want to start on something that I just mentioned, which is this RNA, which we all became aware of when COVID hit. We talked about mRNA, this messenger RNA, and the idea somehow that COVID-19 could be blunted in its effects based on the fact that this inoculation was going to message our bodies and our immune systems in some way to help us ward it off. Can you speak to both the technology and also was that a reasonable understanding on our part?
Well, as you know, our code is DNA in our body, right? But RNA is a messenger. It's an intermediary. It's used to send information from the nucleus out into the cell to get things done. And so many years ago, people thought, why don't we make vaccines out of mRNA? mRNA encodes all the proteins that make us. And so for many years, people worked on getting that to work, get rid of all the problems. And then COVID comes along and we try it. And it worked. Despite the naysayers, it worked. It was incredibly safe. It let people go back to work. And that's validated this mRNA platform for use in vaccines.
And when you say it works, what we were learning early on was, or at least messaged early on was, hey, and by the way, I should just say this so you know, because I know this is your first visit to us. I think I had 4 COVID vaccines, and I'm not. My orientation isn't against vaccines at all. It is, in fact, trying to understand why the efficacy of the vaccines seem to diminish, why some of the messaging associated with early on seem to no longer be applicable. I always assumed it was because the landscape of the virus was changing, and so the vaccine that I was getting wasn't able to actually attack that mutation. Can you speak to the sort of the changing nature of the message and the changing nature of the virology involved?
Yeah, that's a tough and long question. The vaccines were released at the end of 2020, and it enabled many people to go back to work. But we had no idea how long they would last. And we're still learning about this. The virus has certainly changed many times, and that contributes to the perceived lack of efficacy. But I've had 3 vaccines, mRNA vaccines, one less than you. I have had COVID once, and I took care of it with an antiviral. And if I get it again, that's what I would do. And so,
and you're saying that it was easily taken care of because you feel you'd had the vaccine.
I had the vaccines and I took an antiviral drug, and I think the combination is the way to do it. Now, the problem is that many people have other illnesses, and so vaccines don't work as well in them. And all of these negatives were amplified. There was some myocarditis initially associated with vaccination, and people distrust something new, right? It was the word experimental kept popping up around mRNA vaccines, despite the fact that right in front of our eyes, it's working. And now it's in over hundreds of millions of people, and it is very safe and very effective. So I think it's an amazing development, and hopefully the naysayers will not prevent us from going forward with other vaccines using mRNA technology.
And the disposition of the government now, which has been populated by a lot of the anti-vax community, and the leader of this anti-vax community running HHS, a lot of the funding associated with this, I've been following it quite closely, has been drawn off, has been canceled, has been sidelined as, again, the entire disposition toward vaccine policy has been suspect now under RFK Jr.
There are all kinds of problems when you install anti-vaxxers, not only as the head, but the committee at CDC that debates how vaccines are to be used is full of non-science anti-vaxxers. None of these people are qualified for what they've been appointed to do. And you already saw RFK Jr., unilaterally removing COVID vaccines from pregnant women and young children. Pregnant women, which every country in the world recognizes as a risk factor for severe COVID. Only the US now is not going to immunize pregnant women. So they ignore the science and just do what they would like to do. And this is extremely disturbing.
Well, I'm seeing the reemergence of measles. I mean, I'm just astounded by this.
We've had many, many cases of measles, more so than in decades. And that outbreak could have been stopped if someone had stood up and said, we need to vaccinate everyone in these areas. But RFK Jr. never said that. And so the outbreak continues, and other infectious disease outbreaks will likely emerge as well.
Well, just on that, as you game it out, not that you think a lot about this, but I would think you think about it more than others. Where are we with these new vulnerabilities that have been exposed as a result of U.S. policy?
Well, you see already measles is a problem. More and more measles cases are occurring. Other vaccines will shortly follow. I do think that his overall tone of anti-vaccine, that they're dangerous, that they do worse harm than good, which is complete nonsense, of course. This takes people who are right on the edge of getting vaccinated. It convinces them not to get vaccinated. So what are we going to see? We've already seen more influenza in kids than we ever did. We're probably going to see more hepatitis B because he thinks that kids shouldn't be vaccinated against it. We're going to likely see more polio. Can you
Well,
imagine?
we have some listeners who are survivors of polio. Uh, one of whom, as I recall, he got the vaccine, but not before polio had already taken a little bit of his movement away. It was he was in a specific circumstance whereby, he just got the polio vaccine, not quite in time, but almost in time. And he's not quite in time, but almost in time. And he's now seen a reemergence of polio in his own life because the polio vaccine wasn't, as I say, I mention him because I think he's reflective of a lot of our listeners who see the success of polio. It was just an extraordinary thing. It changed the culture. And to hear you say that we'd actually see the reemergence of polio, it's crazy.
It's totally crazy. And it's crazy for all these diseases, which are vaccine preventable, right? And polio is the poster child of vaccination, right? Salk and Sabin developing vaccines that got rid of paralyzed kids, no longer kids getting paralyzed. And we're so fortunate to be at that point. And now he has gone on record saying that the polio vaccine is more dangerous than polio itself, which is absolute nonsense and complete disinformation. And so I think a lot of people will stop getting vaccinated. They'll stop vaccinating their kids. And in a few years, we'll see outbreaks of polio. Really, really horrible.
You're a scientist, and so I hesitate to ask you this, but I know your podcast, which we will have a link to, so we will hopefully show you some love that way, because I think you talk about some good stuff. There it is, microbe.tv. The politics of this, the reasons behind this, conspiracy theories exist and get momentum for a lot of reasons, but RFK Jr. and the U.S. government reflecting this conspiracy theory informed policy, I'm wondering if there's another motivation, money. I always feel like if something doesn't make sense, it goes back to money somehow. Is there a monetary inducement for RFK Jr. and his ilk? Maybe it's not him personally, but people around him. Why turn U.S. government policy and medicine on its side this way over an unproven skepticism?
Well, I think in the case of RFK Jr., I think there are two reasons. One is monetary. He certainly makes money consulting for law firms that sue companies that make vaccines that they think have caused damage, right? Personal injury. And he consults for them, which in any other administration wouldn't be permitted, right? And now we see this happening. So I think that's one motivation. I think he can make many millions of dollars a year doing that. But the other one is he is a zealot. He does not believe in infectious diseases, right? He has written a book saying that he believes in miasma, right? Bad air. That's what causes everything. And viruses and bacteria are just passengers that do nothing. So he's convinced that vaccines have no effect, that it just caused chronic illnesses, which now he wants to get rid of by discontinuing vaccines. So I think it's both. I think it's money, and he has the beliefs. He feels that he has been sent from above to make children better.
So in your research that does continue, your colleagues who continue with research, I mean, it's such high-end specific research. I read, when COVID hit, the book about mRNA. It's sadly, I remember so little of it, but the CRISPR technology, as I recall, where there's a splicing. You can it can explain it or not if it's not super relevant. But I guess what I'm asking you is, as coexisting with this policy that we just described with RFK Jr., the anti-vaxxers, et cetera, coexisting is still great scientific research that's going on. To what extent does that research continue, animated perhaps, and supported by monies out of pharmaceutical companies, et cetera, that do this research. And to what extent is it hobbled because U.S. policy now is such that a lot of the U.S. dollars that support that kind of research are no longer available?
Oh, I think that Americans should be very worried because for over 50 years, the NIH was a huge contributor to our health. The discoveries made not just at NIH, but by NIH-funded research elsewhere were enormous, contributing to all kinds of things that make us live longer. And that's slowing because of the cuts in many ways. My university lost all of its NIH funding because of arguments with the administration. And so we're getting fewer trainees now. The future scientists are not being trained because there's no money to do that any longer. And these are long-term effects, but you get rid of laboratories and research now, and then in 5-10 years, you see the outcomes. We're no longer leaders in innovation, and we can't help our own citizens be healthier.
This last thing that you just mentioned is kind of where I wanted to finish up, which is sort of the expected brain drain. I think what's happening in America is two things, and I'm just curious to know your thoughts. It strikes me that one of those things is what you're speaking of, which is the lack of science dollars, of training. It's as though we no longer want the leadership role that we've had in the world, with all of these different sciences coming together to produce some of the best work in American and even world history. And the other is our immigration policy. I think we've come down really hard on immigrants, brilliant researchers who come here and go to institutions of learning like yours and work with some of the great minds in American modern history like you. And those researchers are thinking twice. And in fact, I've read chapter and verse about how they are not coming to America any longer. They're considering other places of residence and other areas in which they can do lab work that will be unimpeded by some bizarre immigration policy.
Well, they're not welcome. That's the problem. As you know, this country was built on immigrants. My father was an immigrant as well as many others. And that's how science works, to get approaches from all over the world. The American approach is not the only approach possible. I've had so many students from other countries in my laboratories over the years. Then they get trained, they contribute, they go back to their countries and spread science. There's nothing better than that. That's how it works. And the U.S. has been an incredible engine for that. We're admired for our research. We're duplicated and imitated in all other countries. I don't understand why that has to be broken. It makes zero sense at all. We had a wonderfully functioning system of innovation. It was an economic driver as well, besides the health benefits. And now you just take a sledgehammer to it and break it. I'm sure every country in the world is looking at us and going, why would they do that? Why would you break something that's so good?
I want to finish up by asking you about bird flu. And I know we're here in California, and we've seen the cases of bird flu. And I wonder if you could just speak to where it is in terms of its evolution as you see the virus evolve, whether or not this is a threat. So far, it seems to be a threat. Isn't this right, Doctor, to dairy workers and to those who work with poultry? And in other words, these are the people who work around, as I understand it, animals. They are most exposed, but they were also getting treatment, I thought, from an inoculation or some kind of treatment. Can you speak to this and sort of where we are with bird flu and these viruses that exist in those environments?
So when you say bird flu, you probably are referring to this avian influenza virus, H5N1, although there are other ones we could worry about as well. But that's the one that's spread globally. And the concerning part is it's spread by birds who are incredibly mobile, right? They can go anywhere. And so they spread the virus all over. They spread it to other animals, including cows in the US now, where we have this massive outbreak in cows. And also other mammals have been infected and are threatened as well, besides humans. So humans are in contact with all these farm animals. And so it is a concern. Right now, it does not transmit well from human to human. And we don't know if it ever will be able to. That's the future, and we can't predict that, as Yogi said, right? So what are we left with? This virus has been circulating for over 50 years. It has never become a human virus. It doesn't mean that it won't. So what should we do? We should be ready for it. What should we should have antivirals, which we already have, because influenza, we do have antivirals that work against H5N1, and we should have vaccines, which have been developed and continue to be developed as well. And we should do surveillance. We're doing all three of those things. And I think we're in a better position to be ready if there should be a pandemic caused by H5N1 virus than we were in 2020 when COVID emerged.
Do you think that the COVID pandemic was caused by that wet market narrative, or do you think that the narrative that makes more sense is the lab leak narrative? Which one have you found yourself most subscribing to?
As you know, I'm a scientist, and what are scientists convinced by? Data. And we have a lot of data which indicate the live animal market in Wuhan as the epicenter for the outbreak. We have data showing that it first came from animals at that market into humans, and all the initial cases were around the market. I don't see any evidence whatsoever for a lab origin. And I know many prominent people in the world think so, but I'd like to see their PhDs first in virology before I believe them. So this virus, like every other virus that has infected humans, came from nature.
I love that you slummed it with us. You're a big brain guy, and I really enjoyed this conversation. And I've gone back and I've watched a few of your podcasts, and I'll go back and watch more and continue to, we'll have a link to your podcast, obviously, under this video. But one of the things I remark on to myself as I watch it is you have a great relationship with the people who watch and contribute to your podcast. It's a really special thing. So clearly the scientist in you is paired with some other big-hearted part of you because you have a really great relationship. You have a very great kind of across-the-fence style, and I applaud you for that. It's really something special.
Well, as a radio person, I appreciate that very much.
Yeah. Come again. Sadly, Tony's got some of your show up there.
Yeah,
why is the doctor's lighting better than my lighting, Tony? Is that, I mean, I'm just saying. As I say, it's a microbe.tv. Microbe TV is where microbe.tv. Microbe TV is where you can find it. Microbe TV on YouTube. And wish you well, and thank you again, Dr. Vincent Racaniello. See you again. Bravo.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I love classing up the place once in a while with a real doctor. Thank you, doctor, says everyone. He's a lot of love for the doctor. We will be screwed by another pandemic. Yes, we will.
They say it's not if, but when, right?
Yeah, but, and one of the things he said that I actually took encouragement from was the fact that at least on this, is it H5N1?
Mm-hmm.
This virus seems to be controllable right this instant. So I really liked hearing that, But very cool guy, Like he's one of those professors that if you had him in college, go, I really like, I like his class.
Yeah.
I know, excuse me. I'm still drinking that, is it the Clarity blend of Coachella Valley coffee? Oh,
the mushroom coffee.
God. It is so good, gosh.
And I can kind of tell that your brain is clear, less clouded, less muddled.
I am. I have greater clarity. Mm-hmm. This is their latest. It says, be first to try our latest. Yeah. It's the Clarity blend at Coachella Valley Coffee. You can find them at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And when you go there armed with your discount code, Mark T at checkout, 10% off everything, anything on the site. Coffee, tea. Kim is rocking the Moroccan tea. There are also spices. Their cold brew is the best, Supremo. In fact, their cold brew is not just like cold coffee. It's got this great taste structure. So I really recommend that as well. Coachella Valley Coffee, all organic coffee and from women-owned farms. Coachella valleycoffee.com. And again, discount code is MarkT for 10% off at checkout. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to get to a couple of comments if I can. Black on camera drops 10 years, says Scott Redmer. Is that right, Tony? Is my blackness? It definitely drops.
Careful.
You can't see anything. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I can mess with the camera while. I feel like if I maybe turned up the camera a little bit, can I do that? No, it doesn't.
I don't know what
maybe.
options you have to control your camera with, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how to.
I think the only option in StreamYard is the smoothing filter.
The smoothing filter.
Yes.
Come get to know our smoothing filter.
The Barbara Walters filter.
Nice.
Very interesting. Anyway, thank you for that. Midas Touch had Reverend Mark Thompson from Sirius XM. I see. Thank you,
That's
Barry.
a whole different guy.
Yeah,
Oh.
somebody told me that they had our show on, or some piece of our show. Love hearing you on KFI on Sunday. Is this going to be a regular thing? When I'm around on Sunday and they ask, I do it. I don't. It's really, I'll tell you guys this. It's kind of easy to do. It's not super far from my house. It's only 2 hours. So it's like this show, only it's radio. So it's even easier. Right, Tony? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I need to worry
radio
about
show is the easiest thing to do when you count the breaks. It's like,
Yeah.
I only talk for 20 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so just between us girls, it's not like I like to, and I like to show them the love. I like to support them when I can.
Yeah.
So
They're good people there.
yeah, they are. And let me just see what else anything else I need to look at this from Chaplain Fred, a $50 super chat. Wow.
Big shout out.
Big shout out is right. Hi, Mark, Kim, Albert, Tony. Mark, have you ever heard about child trafficking in underground warehouses in Palmdale,
What?
California?
No.
It has been happening for decades, says Chaplain Fred. Law enforcement knows about it, but they do not get involved. Now, A, I don't know about this, so I don't know if this is true. But B, I'm wondering if that's related to child labor or if you're talking about some underground skeezy child trafficking ring that's related to, SEX, something horrible,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
they're
don't know.
both horrible, but wow. Do you know, Kim, you don't know anything about it, right?
No. Mm-mm.
Well, we'll look into it. Chaplain Fred, you could look into it and send me something on it. The Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. Send me something on this. But I'll look into it even if you don't send me something. Thank you for the super. It's really that's a stunner. 12 from the Bay says they didn't do anything about children getting killed at school, so why would they do anything about kids getting trafficked by the president? Yeah. And let's be clear. I don't know that there's evidence that Trump trafficked anyone. I don't think, in fact, that was his jam. These guys, were skeezy, they found their way into, it's gross, it's awful. But Epstein, I think, was the real trafficker. Is Trump demanding the Washington Commanders change their names back to the Redskins? Is that one of Trump's important policies, says Randy? Yeah, I mean, it's one of his important distractions. He's also gone after the Cleveland Indians, who are now the Guardians, to change their name back to the Indians. Isn't that right, Kim?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, he says he will get involved in the funding of some new facility for that team unless they do what he wants and change their name right back.
He wants to bring the N-word back, everybody. That's what that's like the next move here. It's really pretty wild. CC Ryder says, Tulsi is referring Obama officials to the DOJ, and Grassley is revisiting Hillary's emails in an attempt to pivot from Trump Epstein stories. You can't make this up. Yeah, I mean, that's their best chance, is to somehow kick this up. Let's talk about Hillary Clinton. Let's talk about the server. Meantime, guys, you're passing along critical information about a military strike that has yet to happen, and you're doing it on an unsecured platform called Signal. I mean, I don't see how you have any high ground when it comes to security of emails. There are people using their private phones in the Trump administration, not just one or two or three, a lot of them. They're not using government-issued phones. They're not even using government-sanctioned communications. People are on WhatsApp. People are on back-channeling all kinds of things. There are deals being made with foreign governments. I mean, I'm giving you the jetliner view of things. Everything I just said is Googleable. There are deals being made with the country of Vietnam. There are deals being made with the Qataris. There are deals being made across the Middle East. And many of these deals involve communications not on a secure platform. I'm not defending Hillary Clinton. She's already stipulated the fact that it was a mistake. But there was nothing in the way of a communication, not one, on Hillary Clinton's pile of emails that would hold a candle to the crap that's going on right now. So they can kick and scream, and the media will pick it up, and they'll carry it, and look at this, and they're investigating. But I don't know if that shiny object is going to really outshine this Epstein story. And the more Trump sues and the more Trump kicks and screams about it, the more I think it becomes shiny. So I wanted to get some immigration stuff today. Wow. But I like Kim's news. What do you think we should do here, Kim? Can we get to your news and then I still have time for some immigration, or do you want me to do immigration now when we wrap up with your news?
Yeah, let's do immigration because we have we have made a commitment to do it, and then sometimes we don't have time. So I want to make sure we get to it.
Migrants at ICE jail is where we will start. Please smash the like button. I haven't mentioned it today, but it's very important in the YouTube universe. So do that and feel good about yourself.
Hey, which one do you use, Mark Thompson?
Yeah.
Use Mark Thompson.
Let's get into some immigration. It is pretty dark. Migrants at ICE jail in Miami are made to kneel and eat like dogs, according to this report.
This is a shocker.
This is the immigration jail where they were shackled with their heads tied behind their hands tied behind their backs, made to kneel to eat food from styrofoam plates, quote, like dogs. This is according to a new report that reflects conditions at 3 overcrowded South Florida facilities. The incident at the downtown Federal Detention Center is one of a succession of alleged abuses at immigration and customs enforcement agencies operating in the state of Florida since January. The advocacy group Human Rights Watch is trying to get this word out alongside Americans for Immigrant Justice and Sanctuary of the South. They've interviewed detainees, people were there, and that's where these reports emerge. Dozens of men have been packed into a holding cell for hours, denied lunch until 7 p.m. They remain shackled with the food on the chairs in front of them. We had to eat it like animals, said one detainee. Degrading treatment by guards is commonplace in all 3 jails. At the Chrome North Service Processing Center in West Miami, female detainees were made to use toilets in full view of men being held there. They were denied access to gender-appropriate care, showers, or adequate food. The jail so far beyond capacity that some transferring detainees said that they were held for more than 24 hours in a bus in the parking lot. Men and women confined together, unshackled only when they needed to use the single toilet, which quickly became clogged. The bus became disgusting, one said. It was the type of toilet in which normally people only urinate. But because we were on the bus for so long and we were not permitted to leave, Others defecated in the toilet. Because of this, the whole bus smelled strongly of feces. When the group was finally admitted into the facility, they said many spent up to 12 days crammed into a frigid intake room that they christened La Hilera, the icebox. No bedding, no warm clothing, just the concrete floor. At the third facility, the Broward Transitional Center in Pompano Beach, Florida, a 44-year-old Haitian woman died in April. Detainees said that they were routinely denied adequate medical or psychological care. Some suffered delayed treatment for injuries and chronic conditions, and they were treated dismissively or even hostilely by the staff. In one incident in the downtown Miami jail, staff turned off a surveillance camera and a, quote, disturbance control team moved in, brutalized detainees who were protesting a lack of medical attention to one of their number who was coughing up blood. All three facilities severely overcrowded. And that's, they say, one of the reasons that Alligator Alcatraz in the Everglades is being set up. And of course, it already is housing detainees. It's expected to hold up to 5,000 undocumented migrants awaiting deportation. This is just one of the horrors being wrought on these people. The ICE chief doubling down now. Again, the administration, no apologies, no modifications. Immigration and Customs Enforcement saying they will arrest people who are undocumented, who don't have criminal histories. Todd Lyons, the acting head of the federal body, said that in an interview, quote, under this administration, we have opened up the whole aperture of the immigration portfolio. That's a pleasant way to say it. If we encounter someone that isn't here in the country legally, we will take them into custody, he said. Yeah. Of the roughly 100,000 deportations that ICE has documented between January 1st and June 24th, about 70,000 involved a person with a criminal conviction. That's according to a CBS review of internal government data. Just a small fraction of those who faced criminal convictions were involved in violent offenses. So when we talk about a criminal conviction, we can add the notion that these people are here in this country without legal documentation to what could be termed an illegality.
But that's not what the Trump administration or what Trump promised when he was running, right? He said, I want to get the violent criminals off the streets. I want to get the murderers out. I want to get the drug traffickers out. He never said, I want to just get people out that aren't supposed to be here because they overstayed their welcome on their visa. That's not what we were led to believe.
The hard right wants everybody out who doesn't have appropriate documentation. And in fact, the hard right, extreme right of America, they want to rethink who deserves to live here. Even those who have gone through some kind of immigration procedure, they feel may not deserve a spot in America. That's where we're heading. And you're already seeing evidence of it. And then there's this. ICE secretly deporting a Pennsylvania grandfather. He's 82 years old. He lost his green card. The family of Luis Leon say that they were initially told by someone that he had died, but they found him alive in a Guatemalan hospital.
If you have a green card, that means you're here legally, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was visiting an immigration office last month to replace his lost green card. His family had not heard from him, and initially they were told he was dead. He is a longtime Allentown, Pennsylvania resident. He was granted political asylum in the U.S. in 1987. He was fleeing Chile at the time. He was fleeing Augusto Pinochet dictatorial regime. He lost his wallet containing the physical card that confirmed his legal residency, so he and his wife booked an appointment to get it replaced. When he arrived at the office on the 20th of June, he was handcuffed by 2 ICE officers. They led him away from his wife. He's 82. He's been here since 1987.
Where's Grandpa?
Led him away without explanation. She herself was kept in the building for 10 hours until relatives picked her up. The family said they made efforts to find any information on his whereabouts, but were told nothing. Then, sometime after he was detained, a woman purporting to be an immigration lawyer called the family, claimed she could help, didn't disclose how she knew about the case or anything about where he was. And then on the 9th of this month, the same woman called, claiming that he had died. A week later, they discovered from a relative in Chile that Leon was alive after all, but now in a hospital in Guatemala, a country to which he has no connection. The relative said that Leon had first been sent to an immigration detention center in Minnesota, then deported to Guatemala, despite not appearing on any ICE deportation lists. The Supreme Court decision, I'll remind you, says that the administration can deport immigrants to other countries besides those of their origins. In his nearly 40 years living in the U.S., Leon spent his career working in a leather manufacturing plant and raised a family. He has since retired. He's 82, I remind you. His condition in Guatemala in the hospital there, unknown, suffers from diabetes, high blood pressure, a heart condition. The family is planning to fly to Guatemala to see him. And the ICE officials are denying that they had anything to do with this, but they're looking into it.
Yeah, he just flew to Guatemala to a detention facility by himself.
Just a better hospital down there, and I felt I wouldn't have to be on a waiting list for the hospital if I'd slipped into the detention center.
I said, hey, is this a detention center where Americans that are people in America are being deported? I want in there. Let me get in there. Lady Beatrice throws in $5, says, do we know what legal action a judge can order against these crimes against humanity?
This is why activist groups do exist in this space. And I'll ask, in fact, Kim, if you could just remind me to ask Gary, on Thursday, former
David
federal
Katz?
prosecutor David Katz comes through. He's a brilliant legal analyst, and he will tell us what legal high ground there will be. The immigration world is being given a lot of room to deport people, to detain people. You'd have to take these allegations, move them to the level of a criminal complaint, and you'd need evidence. So there'd have to be witness testimony, et cetera. Now, all these things you can get, but by the same token, this takes time. And of course, the immigration system works during that time. A lot of these detainees and those who would have been involved with a court case, they might be exposed in such a way that they don't want to testify because they could be moved up in the deportation process, et cetera. You see how it can get pretty complicated pretty quickly. But that said, we still want to ask him. I think it's a great question. Like, what can be done? The one story I wanted to give you that just shows how there is pushback is this one. It's Human Wilder. He's the founder of the Harlem Baseball Hitting Academy. And apparently they went up to him and but more to the he's coaching, right, Kim? He's coaching a bunch of kids.
Yeah, he's a youth baseball coach.
Right. And he heard these ICE officers going up and asking, where are you from? Where are your parents from? And he stepped in and he said, this is inappropriate. And I'm going to ask these kids to use their Fifth Amendment rights and not say anything to you. And he said that one of the agents responded, oh, another YouTube lawyer. So Wilder, the coach, asked the kids to move to the back of the batting cage while he talked to the agents from the only entrance into the batting cage. And he said, I got some tough New York City kids, so for them to be scared, it means something that is really happening. And Wilder said that he'd reassured them by saying, listen, I'm not going to let anything get through me to you. And I just interviewed him after this incident. I said to myself, I'm willing to die to make sure that you get home, meaning that these kids get back home to safety. I'm willing to die today, is what he said to himself over and over. Wilder wants to make it clear that the kids who play baseball with him are upstanding kids. Bright futures, not victims. In fact, 45 of his players have been drafted into the major league.
Wow.
He said, we graduated 400 kids out of college who walk around with degrees from Stanford and Princeton and Harvard. All African-American and Latino kids, he said. So we're not going around saying, poor little us, because we do very, very good work here. In the end, he says it all comes down to protecting others. But the idea somehow that ICE agents are going on to these baseball fields this way, I mean, it's just, hey, man, how low rent do we have to get? I mean, it's kind of what Kim was saying. Really? You know, you said violent criminals, and now you're going on to batting cages and playgrounds to round up kids to ask where their parents are. I mean, this is
un-American.
And the ICE agents who do it, who say, oh, another YouTube lawyer, I kind of think, guys, find another line of work. Law enforcement needs you across any number of specific professions within law enforcement. ICE is an ugly, ugly face. And sadly, they're hiring more and more people because they just got more money, a staggering amount of money, to supercharge that agency. It's wild. Anyway, that's a bit of what's happening in immigration, and none of it's too encouraging. So.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, Marcia Jones says that's why they wear black masks. Exactly. I mean, it's the shame of it, isn't it? Kim's News. And we will wrap up around here. I know. It's a little, we started late, we can finish late.
All right.
All right. Kim's News, smash the like button like a boss if you would. Those who lingered, thank you. We appreciate it. It helps us in the YouTube universe to have some. Tony, do you have to go do something? Tony's the big, he's got more stuff going on than any of us.
Well, in reality, I have to be at Handel's house at 3 o'clock to rebuild his studio.
Oh.
So
thanks, Tony.
I got that today. So we can go a little late, but I'm good.
Yeah.
I got a studio to rebuild.
A little late for a handle. It's not really going to be. Anyway, all right.
Just say you wanted to know.
Kim's News.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked. On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by, can you hear me? Sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
I hear you, baby.
Awesome. A federal court hearing on Harvard's frozen federal research funding wrapped up this afternoon. The university and the Justice Department presenting oral arguments today. The judge heard the case over Harvard's request that the funding freeze be declared unlawful and called the situation mind-boggling. The Trump administration said the school failed to address anti-Semitism on campus, among other issues. President Trump says lawmakers calling for the release of the Epstein files are troublemakers. He made the comment on Truth Social over the weekend after the Justice Department asked the federal judges to unseal grand jury testimony in the criminal case against convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Trump wrote, "Even if the court gave its full and unwavering approval, nothing will be good enough for the troublemakers and radical left lunatics making the request." The comment also came a day after the president sued the Wall Street Journal for revealing a letter Trump reportedly wrote to Epstein. Pretty racy letter at that.
I mean, the one thing I will say is that, and I noted it in hour one, the grand jury testimony normally under seal, even if you were to get it released, it doesn't speak to the volume of stuff in the Epstein files. The Epstein files are not reflected in this grand jury thing. This grand jury thing is like 1/1000th of what is in the Epstein files. So it's a total red herring, but Trump is hoping that it throws the media off the scent for a while.
And that's kind of the message of Jeffrey Epstein's former attorney, who says there's probably not much to be found about his late client's dealings with the rich and powerful in grand jury transcripts that the White House wants unsealed. Alan Dershowitz telling Fox News Sunday, the information people really want to see is more likely in records that have been sealed by federal judges in New York. Parts of the Midwest and the East bracing for possible flash flooding this week as a heat wave sends temperatures soaring further south. Today, the flooding risk is greatest across the Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia states. Meanwhile, places like Kansas City and Dallas could see 100 degrees. There is a former Louisville police officer being sentenced today in the death of Breonna Taylor. Brett Hankison was found guilty of violating Taylor's civil rights when he fired blindly into her apartment in 2020. In a pre-sentencing memo, the Justice Department asked for a reduced sentence of time already served along with 3 years parole. Lawyers for Taylor's family call that recommendation an insult.
It is an absolute abomination that this police officer, and I'm a big one for the cops, but I will tell you, this is it's an abomination is the word that comes to mind. I mean, it's a complete miscarriage of justice. How you can bust into someone's house and discharge the kind of, I mean, how many 10 shots were fired? I'm trying to remember. What was it? What did you say? I think it was like 10 shots that were fired. He discharged his weapon, and I think he shot 10 times. Isn't that right?
The word in the story is fired blindly.
Yeah, I mean, that's clear. Yeah, I mean, and then they know this by, they can track where the bullets ended up and all that. This guy was a reckless, irresponsible cop at minimum. And the idea that he could walk this way with such a minimal slap on the wrist, it is loathsome. It is grotesque. I literally couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it.
No. One of President Trump's top lawyers could see her time as interim U.S. attorney come to an end tomorrow. Oh no, it's so sad, Alina Habba, named as acting U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey in March. Her 120-day limit is set to expire tomorrow unless New Jersey federal judges vote to extend the deadline. Trump nominated Habba for a full term July 1st, but her nomination has yet to be voted on by the Senate. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass renewing her call for an end to the deployment of National Guard troops and U.S. Marines to Los Angeles comes as federal immigration enforcement operations continue. Mayor Bass said Marines are not trained in domestic law enforcement tactics. She says Marines nor National Guard troops neither of them are authorized to make arrests. She says the remaining National Guard members are guarding a building that's not under attack, and Marines are simply illegally and inappropriately deployed to Los Angeles. Bass says President Trump has pulled some of the troops out, but says it's time the president removes all Guard members and Marines from the city.
I mean, I don't understand. The Guard members and the Marines are bored stiff. They've got nothing to do. It's really, imagine. Again, it's performative theater. These guys, if you're a backer of the military, if you're a backer of those who serve honorably, you have to be offended by this, that they're being used in this way. I mean, it's outrageous. They're not doing anything. You're just sending them to a major city to pretend they're protecting against this violent population, this Democratic-controlled city. You know, we're here to civilize you. I mean, this is not what these guys are trained to do. All they can do is stand around, and that's what they're doing. I think it's insulting to them. I really do. And not to mention the fact that, you know, Bass is right in this case. I'm not a Bass fan, but she's absolutely right.
ICE officials say agents can continue to use masks in the field. Acting Director Todd Lyon says agents can continue to use masks despite criticism that the practice limits identification of its personnel. During an interview, Lyon shared that he is not a proponent of the masks, but also said he will allow it if it's a tool to help keep agents and their families safe. According to Lyons, ICE agents have been severely doxxed and that there's been a rise in assault against ICE officers as well. The brother.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just
Carry on.
In 10 seconds or less. That's another outrage. Hey, I love it. I'm not a fan of the masks, but if that's what they need to protect their identity and to prevent, well, great. I'm not a fan of the ICE policy. So I don't know where we stand on this. But if you're just kind of stipulating in sort of a boilerplate way, well, I'm not a fan. It's like a little preamble. I'm not a fan of abridging people's civil rights, but I mean, if that's the only way to clean up America, then let's do it. Dude, if you've got the balls to start pulling people out of high schools, out of Home Depot, out of Lowe's, out of judicial hearings where they're there to begin or continue immigration processes, if you've got the balls to do that, then have the balls to show your effing face or to have some kind of markings, badge number or otherwise, when you do it. Otherwise, this is absolutely un-American and unacceptable. It is straight out of the authoritarian dictatorships of World War II.
The brother of late NFL star Pat Tillman facing multiple charges after crashing his car into a San Jose area post office. Officials say the crash and then fire on the scene do not look like an accident. Officials say Richard Tillman drove into the Almaden Valley post office early Sunday morning, triggering an explosion that caused this post office to go up in flames. The authorities believe Tillman drove into the post office intentionally, and he has now been booked on numerous charges. Tillman is the brother of NFL star Pat Tillman, who left football behind and chose to serve his country in Afghanistan as an Army Ranger. Pat Tillman was killed by friendly fire in 2004.
I don't know much about this story except what Kim has just said, but I would encourage all of you to immediately this week watch one of the great documentaries ever. And I'm a student of documentary film, love documentary film, and truly, for a story that is compelling and absolutely incredible, the Pat Tillman story, I think it's called, Tony, maybe, but I'm almost certain it's called the Pat Tillman story. Google it, find it, watch it. It is, as I say, compelling. There it is, the Tillman story it's called. And the narrative that was advertised by the administration at the time under George Bush and the great sacrifice made by this amazing American, Pat Tillman, and his family is one that you should know. But you will be astounded, blown away by what happened with Pat Tillman. He gave up that career in the NFL. He went to Afghanistan, and then you have to see the movie to see what happened. And then after what happened, it's another layer of extraordinary. Riveting is what they say, and it is riveting. See it. The Tillman story. It has wrapped up in it not only everything with Pat Tillman and his family, but everything with America and seizing a narrative and changing a narrative and telling a phony story and forwarding a kind of story and narrative that best serves your own interests. It's astounding what happened. The Tillman story.
The Cosby Show actor Malcolm Jamal Warner has died at the age of 54. Multiple reports say he died after drowning. Warner was known for his role as Theodore Huxtable in the hit sitcom. He'd been recently hosting the podcast Not All Hood. There he is, Malcolm Jamal Warner, dead at the age of 54.
God, that's just extraordinary. He drowned?
Those are multiple reports indicate that, but no official cause of death yet. 54 years old. Man, that's a face familiar to a lot of us, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear will be on the cover of Vogue for its September publication. Vogue sharing the news on social media while promoting the upcoming feature, referring to Beshear as the most popular Democratic governor in the country. Beshear's Vogue cover following speculation about his political future and a potential run for president. He's previously said he'll take a look at running in 2028.
He is one of the shining lights of the Democratic Party. He really is. He's spoken of that way for a reason. So he might be able to punch through. And you'll need that kind of publicity. You'll need the cover of Vogue, and you'll need a lot more than that, because nobody knows who the F Andy Beshear is unless you really follow politics. And by the way, speaking of Vogue, wasn't Vogue purchased for Lauren Sanchez by Jeff Bezos as a wedding gift?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Oh, so that's a very nice. Oh, well. Yeah. The new Vogue.
There's hope for all of us. At 5'8", the Chicago Bulls have signed the shortest player in the NBA.
Wow.
What? Japanese point guard Yuki Kawamura. A Bulls spokesperson says he's under a two-way contract after playing on their annual summer league team. Kawamura, not only the shortest player, he's the only one that stands less than 6 feet tall.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
he must have a hell of a short, huh, Kim?
Or maybe he's able to get underneath the legs of all those tall guys running around like.
Short enough having that conversation.
Well,
short enough to fit under the leg span, right?
Oh, that's too good. Yeah.
WNBA players demanding higher pay in a very high-profile way. All of the players warmed up for Saturday's All-Star game in shirts that read, "Pay us what you owe us." The move comes after the players and the league failed to reach a new collective bargaining agreement last week. They want higher salaries, improved benefits, and better revenue sharing. And lastly, can you guess what America's favorite ice cream flavor is?
That's a good question. What is America's favorite? Oh, okay. All right. What is America's favorite ice cream flavor?
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's either... all right, the leading candidates, vanilla, chocolate, and chocolate mint. I think chocolate mint's very popular, but I'm guessing chocolate is the favorite. What do you think, Tony?
Honestly, I think it's vanilla because it's the base of so many other flavors.
That's true. Tony, as usual, makes a very good point. Vanilla is the base of so many. In the chat, everybody's going, a couple mint chip, vanilla, not coffee, asks Don Shepard. Matcha cookie dough is so good. Oh,
butterscotch, Rocky
she's not asking
Road.
What's the best flavor. She's not asking what your favorite. Yeah, she's not.
Cookie dough.
She's asking what's the most popular. What is the most popular, Kim?
The most popular flavor of ice cream in America is vanilla.
Vanilla.
Yeah.
Tony was so right.
Data from Instacart shows vanilla was the most ordered ice cream flavor on the platform in summer of 2024. So that's last year, but it also topped the list for the summer of 2023. The figures show vanilla made up 27% of all ice cream sales last summer. Chocolate and cookies and cream made the second and third spots on the list.
Cookies and cream, so good. Oh my gosh.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's good. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com.
Yeah, baby.
It was great. I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh, they have a summer sun tea. It's mango orange. I'm sorry, hibiscus orange. So good. Had the hibiscus orange sun tea, the vanilla tea, the mango tea.
Oof.
Oh, yeah.
Mango.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I know you're on the Lion's Mane coffee, the Clarity blend, which is also very popular at my house right now.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm having to,
Valley.
I've been trying to monitor and reduce my coffee intake just a little bit. And it's hard with this Clarity blend, which I've fallen in love with, to be perfectly honest. I don't quite know what to do. I may need an intervention. I try to nurse the, cup and a half. But it is, and over the weekend, I was going 2+ cups per day, which, again, for me, I used to have like 8 cups, no problem. But now the doctors, have put me on a plan where I have to have
Emil
Schopausen. The Dr. Emil Schopausen has said to me, try 2 cups of coffee a day if you can get to it. For you, Mark, because of, but anyway. So,
yes,
I was a basketball referee.
Okay.
CoachellaValleyCoffee.com is the website. Please get your 10% off just for being a Mark Thompson Show listener. Mark T, no spaces at checkout. Mark T gets you 10% off your order. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is the Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, we've got to wrap up around here. Tony's got to rebuild a studio for Bill Handel, who's a big radio personality in Los Angeles.
Modifying.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got an eye doctor's appointment where they put the drops in your eye and make it so you can't see anything up close. I had an incident happen with those drops in my eye. This is that had to be 15 years ago. I was at the doctor's office and didn't expect that he was going to use those drops, and he didn't say anything to dilate the eye exactly.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
He puts the drops in, does all the stuff. Then he sends me back, and I run to my agency, my voiceover agency, and my voiceover agent, Mike Schaubetter, is a terrific agent, and he's actually a big supporter of this show. Just sent us $100, which is very, very generous of him.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
And I am given this copy for Coca-Cola. It's like a big campaign.
But you can't read it?
And it's on an easel, like a music stand, and I could not see the words. It was so weird, man. It was weird.
No.
And so I say, I'm so sorry. I've just come from the eye doctor, and he's given me these. And the agent, who's no longer there, it was his agency at the time. It was a big deal. Like, imagine like the president of your world, of voiceover world, said, how could you do something like that when you know where you're having you have this on your agenda? How could you do something like that? I said, I'm sorry. I didn't know they could. It's crazy. I said, we can wait. We'll wait. But this is, how can you do this? He used to call me Marky. How can you do something like this? Marky. Every time I go on vacation, he would say, well, I hope you know, Ford called and they wanted to use you on a spot. But it's like, really, Jeff? Ford Motor Company called while I was on vacation?
Why can't someone just read it to you,
Yeah, I don't know. It was a little bit too much to just, but you're right. That would have been, there was like a few lines of copy. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway, so I think of it every time I think of those drops. All right. Do I need to read anything more or am I good?
I think poll results. 70% said yes, neon sign.
Oh, they want the neon sign. Woohoo! Well, but then it's a question of...
Dr. Racaniello had one today. Racaniello had a neon behind him.
He did.
Yeah.
Dr. Racaniello had it. So
everyone but us.
What do you think it should say is the question, I mean, that's a sign that if somebody's going to see every day.
How does the internet work?
Well, this is a thing where...
You have that whole corner there above you.
We need. There, well, I don't know. Well, I need to know what it should say.
Why are you yelling?
It can't say why are you yelling because people won't know what that is. I mean, we get people passing through here who don't really know the game. So I don't know. We have to figure out what it might say. Tony, you have any thoughts?
No, not right now.
Yeah.
No idea.
There's a reason that this place is fun.
Yeah, you could put that up there.
All right.
I mean, I have a Godzilla and a Mechagodzilla one.
The sign should be flashing and say open 24 hours. That's a great flashing and say open 24 hours. That's a great idea. That is a great idea. On the air, says Daniel Martin. That's not a bad thought either. I like the 24 hours Chit.
I like this one. Eat it, Joe.
Eat it, Joe. Some shout out producer Calvin Wong. Remember, it should say on air. A couple of people for on air. Remember Spud Wedmark? Yeah, he was short. That's right. Thank you, Chaplain Fred. That's true. Kim was talking about the shortest NBA player at 5'8", just being drafted into the league. I'm kind of a big deal. Oh, that's not bad either.
Too many words, though.
Yeah, too many words. Smash it with your iron rod is being suggested. As to getting to Handles at 3 o'clock to do his work, get there at 3:10, says Henley. People not too sympathetic to Handle. Where are my weed smokers? You think we should put that on a
Where are my weed smokers?
No, don't. That's not what we're doing. No. But
Morning.
All right. I'm
Morning.
All right. I'm excited, but now we're writing. Now we're writing. This is how great writing happens. I think it's too long again, but I love it. I love it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. All right, tomorrow, David K. Johnston. I've got a lot to ask David K. Johnston about. I want to ask him about everything from immigration to the Epstein story, the political ramifications of the Epstein story, to the Murdochs of the Epstein story, to the Murdoch coupling and the right-wing coupling with JD Vance. Also, they try to bring up again the Russia stuff to stave off what's happening now, and Congress is joining in and trying to protect the president. There's a lot to talk to David K. Johnston about. And so...
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Johnson Show. Bye-bye.
Want to give a shout-out to Wes for a $5 super sticker.
Bye-bye.
Kim is doing the after party live until tomorrow. Bye-bye.